Hello friends, welcome to our class. Now we are going to start climatology. First, atmosphere. The gaseous envelopes which surrounds the earth from all sides, and it is stretched to the earth's surface by the gravitational force. Weather. It is day to day state of the atmosphere. Climate. The average atmospheric condition of the area over a considerable period of the time calculated for a minimum of 30 years. Nitrogen. The atmospheric the atmospheric nitrogen gets converted into the soil nitrogen through the nitrogen fixation. Plants are the capable of the absorbing it from the soil. Oxygen. Oxygen is the chemically active. Oxygen is taken directly through the respiration. It is consumed at the cellular level. Oxygen is released into the atmosphere through the process of the photosynthesis by plants. Carbon dioxide. It is released by the both plant and animals and consumed by the plants only. Example during photosynthesis. It is called the greenhouse gas. It helps in maintaining the stable temperature in the atmosphere. Novel gas. These gases are no reactive in nature. Water vapor. It is the most variable gas in the atmosphere. It is responsible for all weather phenomena in the atmosphere. It is the gaseous greenhouse gases capable of the absorbing heat. 90% of the vapor is concentrated in the lower 60 kilometer of the atmosphere. Dust particle. It is concentrated at the lower level of the atmosphere. It acts as a hydroscopic nuclei and help in the condensation and the cloud formation. It is released into the atmosphere through the weathering, erosion, and the form of volcanic eruption. Hydroscopic nuclei. The hydroscopic means the something which attracts water. Hydroscopic nuclei are the microscopic particles that allow water vapor to condensation on their surface. Troposphere. It extends from sea level to 60 km in the tropic and the 6 kilometers in the poles. It is the zone of the turbulence and the convection due to the co- continuous mixing of the gases. All weather phenomena is restricted to the troposphere due to the presence of the water vapor and dust particles. Temperature decrease from sea level to 6.5 degrees Celsius per kilometer, called the normal lapse rate. The edge of the troposphere is called the tropopause, which is transition zone to the stratosphere. Stratosphere. It extends from the tropopause to the 50 kilometers. It is called because of the layers of the stratified and the no convection in nature. The temperature rise in the troposphere due to the absorption of the UV ray by the ozone in this layer. The conditions are the extremely dry except from the some rare cloud called the atmospheric cloud. Example, mother for the pears. The top of the atmosphere is called the stratosphere, mesosphere. It extends from the troposphere to 80 km. The temperature decreases with the height and the reaches its the lowest in the atmosphere. The top of the mesosphere is called the mesopause, the thermosphere. It extends from the 80 to 500 to 700 km. It consists of the lower nitrogen layer and the upper oxygen layer. Its temperature rises rapidly due to the observation of the high energy solar radiation. The temperature reaches up to the 1200 degrees Celsius at the 350 kilometers exosphere. It extends from the edge of the thermosphere to the vacuum. It contains the atomic oxygen, helium, and hydrogen. It contains a magnetosphere composed the electrons and the protons derived from the solar winds and the charged particles. They have been arranged in the two bands at 3000 km and the 16,000 km, which are called as the Van Allen radiation belt, the ionosphere. It exists between 80 to the 650 km within the thermosphere. It formed due to the ionization by the solar radiation. It is made of the multiple layer D, E, F, G, etc. The ionosphere reflects the short wave radiation waves, helping the radio communication command line. It is the boundary where the outer space begins. It is an altitude of the 100 km from sea levels. The international law does not define the limits of the air space. It is the line agreed upon from the aircraft's the navigation through the consensus. Above, these lines of the air too thin from the aircraft's balloon and the other light flight other than the spacecrafts. Ionization, heat budget, and the albedo. The amount of the incoming solar radiation is called the ionization. The amount of the ionization received by the Earth 2 billionth of the solar energy. The amount of the isolation received on the surface 1.92 calories per centimeter per minute called the solar constant. The incoming solar radiation is the shorter in wavelength. This radiation is absorbed by the Earth's surface and remains the long wavelength terrestrial radiation. Greenhouse effect. The atmosphere is transparent to incoming solar radiation and opaque to the outgoing terrestrial radiation. The warming of the Earth's atmosphere and its surface of the absorb the terrestrial radiation by some of the gases is called greenhouse effect. The gases responsible on and greenhouse gases, for example, carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, and HFC, chlorofluorocarbon, hydrofluorocarbon, and PFC, perfluorocarbon, HF6, the sulfur hexaoxide, water vapor, etc. The Earth's surface absorbs incoming solar radiation and the remains terrestrial radiation, hence it is called as a source of the heat of the atmosphere. Therefore, the temperature decreases with the height rate of the 6.5 degrees Celsius per kilometer, which is called normal lapse rate. Heat transfer. Method of the heat transfer. Radiation. The involves the transfer of the heat in the form of the radiant energy. The incoming solar energy is the form of the electromagnetic radiation. Second, condensation. It involves the transfer of the heat through the molecular activity at the zone of the contact. It occurs the zone of the contact between the troposphere and the Earth's surface. The convection. Third, the transfer of heat by the vertically movement of the mass of the air. For example, the convection of the air along with the equator. Advection, the transfer of heat by the horizontal movement of the mass. For example, planetary wind and ocean current. Factors affecting the isolation. पहला, transparency in the atmosphere. Cloud cover, dust particles, water vapor, etc. reduces the transparency of the atmosphere and the reduces the ionization received at surface. The latitude of the place decides the angle of the incidence and isolation, which affect the isolation received per unit area of the surface. For example, in the tropical region, isolation falls vertically and the concentrated in the small area. Along temperate and the solar regions, along with the incidence is the oblique. The isolation is the distributed over the large area. The length of the day. The longer day and the more than isolation received at the surface. The length of the day depends on the season. Heat budget. On the global scale of the Earth must radiate as much heat back to the space as the receives from the Sun. This is necessary in the order to maintain the uniform temperature on the Earth. The gain and the losses of the heat by the way incoming solar radiation and the outgoing terrestrial radiation are the called the heat budget. Short wave solar radiation, long wave earth radiation. The radiation from the earth minus 23, turbulence and the curvature and minus 29, condensation minus 90, reflect plus 9 plus 6, radiated the space from the earth minus 17, radiated the space and the atmosphere minus 48. Not visible well. Albedo. Albedo is the radio between the reflected amount of the solar radiation and the incoming solar radiation by the earth, as well as it is also called the reflection coefficient. The average albedo of the earth is equal to 35%. Temperature. The degree of the hottest and the coldest of the surface is the called temperature. The factor affecting the temperature. First, isolation. The isolation in the term depends upon the transparency of the atmosphere, latitude, longitude, and the of the day. Even through the sun's rays vertically along the equator throughout the year, the equator will not have the maximum temperature due to the cloud cover. Second, albedo. The surface with the higher albedo reflects back more insolation, resulting in the less observation of the heat causing the lower temperature. Third, the temperature of the surface. The earth behaves differently depending upon the specific heat of the surface. It land surface with the lower specific heat up the more rapidly intensely than the water surface. Also the land cools rapidly. Fourth, the distance from the sea and the continentality. The isolation that at the interior of the continent experience the higher range of the temperature than the coastal isolation. For example, Delhi experiences a hotter summer and a colder winter in than the Mumbai. Fifth, the distribution of the continents. The northern hemisphere, with the more proportion of the land and the ocean, experiences a higher range of the temperature than the southern hemisphere, with the more water surface. Sixth, altitude. The temperature decreases with the increase in altitude. Seventh, wind. Air in the motion is the cold winds. They transport temperature and the prevailing in the one area to the another. For example, planetary wind. Seventh, ocean current. The ocean current are likely rivers inside the ocean. They transport from the water from the tropics to polar region and vice versa, helping in the global distribution of the temperatures. The temperature and factor affecting the temperature. A term related to temperature. The temperature is the degree of the hottest or the coldest. The temperature is used the measures of the temperature. Diurnal range of the temperature. Differences between the daily max and daily minimum. Means daily temperature. Sum of the 24-hour temperature divided by 24 means monthly temperature. It is the sum of the daily temperature of the months divided by the number of the day in the month. Annual range of the temperature. Highest and lowest means of the monthly temperature. The highest record of the temperature is the 58 degrees in the Al Aziza, Libya. But as per the World Meteorological Organization, it is the 56.8 Death Valley in US, California. The lowest temperatures Vostoka Station and Antarctica -88 degrees. Distribution of the temperature. The variation in the temperature uh, is the uniform along the altitude at the different place due to the number of the factor where the connect these lines of the uniform temperature and along the altitude is the known as the isotherm. The across the Earth, isotherm shifted north and south with the apparent movement of the sun. The isotherm moves northward between the January to July, then shifts southward between the July to January. The shifting of the isotherm is the more in the northern hemisphere than the southern hemisphere. Indicate the higher isoseasonal variation in the northern hemisphere. This is due to the presence of the vast land masses in the northern hemisphere. The moving from the land to ocean isotherm bends along the particular latitude. Isotherm bends polewards in January over the ocean. The isotherm bent equator the July over the ocean. The near the equator annual range of the temperature is very less. The range of the temperature is decreases from the equator up to the higher latitude. This range is the form of northern hemisphere. The temperature inversion. The average rate of the degrees in the temperature up to the altitude is the called normal lapse rate. Under the certain special condition, reversal of the normal lapse rates occurs on the temperature increase with the altitude. This phenomena is the called temperature inversion. The zone of the temperature change in the atmosphere is the called the temperature inversion zone. The types of the temperature inversion have a radiation inversion. The conditions that favor the radiation inversion are the long winter night, calm and windless condition, clear and the cloudless sky. This condition the land surface radius heats from the rapidly during the night. These losses of the radiation by the land surface cause the land to cool down and there the air just above the surface as cool. This cooler air is the override the warmed upper air which has been absorbed heat from the radiation losses. Therefore, the temperature is increased with increase in the altitude, creating the temperature inversion. B. The air drainage type of the inversion. The mountain and the hilly tops experience rapid fall in the temperature during the night. The valley sides remains the warmer due to the radiation exchange between the valley. The cooler and the denser air from the hilly top sinks the valley a flower due to gravity. After some of the time, warm air rates over the cooler air, resulting in the temperature inversion. C. The advection inversion. It is produced when the thick layer of the warm air passes over the a cold water surface or snow covered surface, creating the temperature inversion. D. The frontal inversion. It is the cause due to the frontal convergence of the air masses along the facts, and the warmer is the force upward from the grounds by the undercutting of the cold air, which is leads to temperature inversion where the warm air lying above the cold air. Significance of temperature inversion. Temperature inversion is the prevent the convection by the creating the stability of the lower atmosphere. The hence the prevent participation. The temperatures inversion condition with the cold air near the surface are suitable for the fog formation. It also the reduce the wind activity and the prevent the distribution of the pollutants causing the bad air quality. For example, around the Delhi during winter the pollutant are the trapped for the longer duration, creating bad air quality in the urban areas during the in the urban area during winter fog maximum of the smoke, resulting in the formation of the smoke, which is the thick layer of the reduces air quality. For the formation of the fog reduces visibility and disrupts and the transportation networks. Air drainage type of the inversion decided by the pattern of the settlements in the mountainous region, the mountain slopes, and the preferred overall valley floors or the hilltop. Agriculture in the hilly area is impacted by the air drainage inversion. Example: fruit orchards, Uttarakhand, Himachal Pradesh, coffee plantation, and the Brazil avoid the valley floors. The pressure. The pressure is the force experienced per unit area. The atmospheric pressure is the pressure exerted by the Earth's atmosphere. The average atmospheric pressure near the sea level is equal to the 1013 millibars. The pressure is measured using the pressure measure the barometers. The factors causes the variation in the pressure. A temperature. When air is heated up, the expected and the outward pressure of the molecules is the spread over the larger area, and the surface pressure of the air decrease. When air is the cool, it contracts or the causes in the increase in the pressure. B. Altitude. The pressure experienced by the air ground level is the higher than the air of the higher altitude. When air rises due to the convection, its volumes increase and the pressure decrease. When air sinks due to subsidence, its values decrease, the pressure increase. Third, rotation. The rotation of the earth causes air and the poles by the thrown the way towards the equator. Uh, if we con- if we consider affect the rotation, air peeling around the equator reduce a belt of the high pressure along the pole and belt the low pressure. The formation of the pressure belt. The belt of the low pressure experienced along the equator region is known as the equatorial low, and the zone of the high pressure at the poles is known as the polar high. The air rises at the equator and moves upward till the tropopause pause and form their separate in the two direction is the two poles. at the 30 degrees north and the south, and it sinks down due to the air being dense now as the now the occupying the smaller area, so pressure increases. So the reason is the subtropical high. From the 30 degrees air then the divides into the two direction regions, the one moving towards the equator and the another moving towards the pole. The air near the pole region is always subsiding in nature, and because there is a no convection, there is a high pressure belt, so never vertically rises. The air near to the pole region is thrown due to the rotation of the earth and started to move up away from the poles, which is earlier was the occupying a smaller area. Now due to the getting thrown by away the occupies a larger area, and the 30 degrees belt has been the low pressure belt, a temperate low, and the air coming from the poles and meet the air from the subtropicals. It convergence causes the convection and the rises vertically upward, and upon the reaching the troposphere, a troposphere again divides into the two or more moving poles side by another towards the subtropics, and the again getting the subtropics air apart. Atmospheric level is descend at the 30 degrees. This is the result in the formation of the atmospheric cells between 0 to 30 degrees Hadley cells, between 30 to 60 degrees Ferrel cell, between 60 to 90 degrees polar cell. Planetary wind flow along the surface 0 to 30 degrees trade winds, 30 to 60 degree westerlies, and 60 to 90 degree polar westerlies. We can see in the figure polar cell, Hadley cell, Ferrel cell, and Hadley cell. Polar front have a hot latitude, international convergence zone, trade winds westerlies नीदर की तरफ, and polar easterlies. Development of the pressure belt. Air rising at the equator due to the high temperature causes expansion and therefore the development of the low pressure belt at the equator. This connecting air at the equator is spread out of the it reaches the top and the troposphere and the move towards the pole. This air is a convergence towards the pole region. It the density increases and begins to the sink with the subsiding, leading to the high pressure belt at the 30 degrees north and south. Some of the high pressure move towards the equator and the some towards the pole. The air moving towards the equator replaces the air rising there is a completing a cell. The low temperature at the poles resulting in the constriction of the air and the development of the high pressure. The air blowing away from the poles is spread out of the large space, and the pressure falls, lending to other low pressure belt along the 60 degrees of the north and south. Some of the air from the subtropical to high pressure belt moving towards the pole. The reaches 60 degrees in north and the south covers with the air from poles leading to the convection along 60-degree north and south. The rising air, the 60-degree north and south, is spread out of the edge of the troposphere. A part of the moves towards the equator and the rest up towards the pole. The distribution of the pressure across the world. The distribution of pressure across the earth can be studied using the isobar. Isobar are the lines joining the place to equal pressure. With the apparent movement of the sun between the tropics and pressure belt shift north and the south. The pressure in January. The equatorial low pressure belt extends into the southern hemisphere, and the subtropical high pressure belt and the southern hemisphere is the found only over the ocean. Low temperature is the northern hemisphere proceeds a continuous high pressure system linking with the high pressure cells and the Siberian and North American. The pressure in the July, the equatorial low pressure belt extend and the too much into the northern hemisphere due to the intention of the heating and the India's and the Tibetan. The subtropical high pressure belt in the northern hemisphere is not continuous or exists only over the ocean as weak high pressure cell. In the southern hemisphere, the continuous belt is the high pressure is the formed. With wind. The wind is the air in the motion. The forces affecting the motion of the wind. पहला pressure gradient force. The rate of the change in the pressure concerning the distance is the called the pressure gradient. The pressure differently in the atmosphere causes the movement of the air from the high pressure to low pressure. The force causing this movement is the called the pressure gradient force. The pressure gradient force act in the direction particularly in isobar. The pressure gradient forces increase with the increase in the rate of the change of the pressure, and that is the pressure gradient force is the more than the isobar is the place closely. The frictional force, the any moving object moving near the land experience frictional force is the direction opposite to that of the movements. The maximum near the surface that is the higher latitude. It is the maximum over the continent than the ocean. Third, the Coriolis force. It is the frictional force produced due to the rotation of the earth. It is the combined effects of the variation forces factors such as the centrifugal force, angular velocity. The variation spared the rotation and different latitude. It causes the moving object the effect towards the right in the northern hemisphere and the left in the southern hemisphere. The degrees of the Coriolis force depends on the speed of the moving body and the altitude which the body is moving speed of the rotation of the earth. The geostationary wind at the same latitude where the isobar the stranger there is the friction and the pressure gradient force is the placed in the Coriolis forces and the result in the wind follow the parallel direction of the isobar. This is called geostrophic wind. The geostrophic winds along the low pressure and the high pressure cell result in the formation of the cyclone and the anticyclone circulation. The pressure system pressure condition at the center, the pattern winds in the northern hemisphere and the pattern of the wind in the southern hemisphere cyclone. Low anticyclone is clockwise, anticyclone high and clockwise anticyclone wise. Planetary wind. There are the winds blowing throughout the year and are found across the entire planet. Trade winds slash easterlies. They blow from the subtropical high equatorial low. The German trade means the track of the low in the some direction throughout the year. The trade winds are dry to stable in the area of the origin, moving towards the equator and peaks of the moisture and causes precipitation along the eastern margin. The reaching the western margin as they are the devoid of the moisture of the offshore trade winds will not result in the precipitation and this desert formation. The addition of this nearness to the subtropical high pressure belt and the pressure belt and the presence of the cold ocean current creates the dry condition. Example Sahara Desert, Kalahari Desert, etc. Subtropical low, polar easterlies prevailing the westerly subtropical high. The tropical easterlies flow this direction. Uh, Intertropical convergence zone ITCZ. The tropical easterlies subtropical high, prevailing westerlies subtropical low, and polar easterlies. They blow from the subtropical high temperate temperate low in the both hemisphere. They waste the land masses in the northern hemisphere and then obstruct the westerlies, whereas in the southern hemisphere they blow the strongly and the consisting due to the huge water expanses. Therefore, they are the called the roaring 40s, furious 50s, and the shrinking 60s in the southern hemisphere. The polar easterlies, it blows from the polar highly pressure belt to the temperate low pressure belt. And they are extremely cold, stable and dry, and they blow from the long distance and they affect the climate. Intertropical Convergence Zone ITCZ convergence of the trade winds from the both the sides of the tropics. It is centered on the equator, the 5 degrees north and south of the equator normally during the equinox, but is a shift as well as north and the southwards. This zone experiences a low pressure calm and windless condition. Therefore, it is called the as a zone of the doldrum. The summer it says shift towards the north of the or on the equator. Winter it says shift towards the south of the equator. Humidity will be the greater due to the convection. Horse latitude 30 degree north and the south. It is the zone of the subtropical high pressure belt near the 30 degrees north and south. Due to the vertically descending belt, this is the reason of the light and the calm wind. Tricellular medicinal circulation. The surface winds blow from the high to low pressure belt, but in the upper atmosphere, the direction of the air circulation is the opposite to the surface wind. This, together with the convection and the subsidence along the low pressure and high pressure belt, result in the three cellular circulation along the each meridian called the tricellular meridional circulation. These three cells are the Hadley cell and the feathered cell and the polar cell. Seasonal wind. They are not following throughout the year and they do not cover the entire planet. The seasonal differences in the temperature and the pressure cause the movement of the air and subsequent wind blowing in the particular season are called the seasonal wind. For example, southwest monsoon, the local wind, they are the regular phenomena. The differences in the heating and the cooling of the Earth's surface and the cycles that the develop daily of the annually create the several common winds and call the local wind. Land versus sea breeze. Land warmer air goes to the seas, and the cool sea breeze is a cooler sea air come into land. In day phenomena, in नाइट रिवर्स phenomena हो जाता है। नाइट में लैंड कूलर हो जाता है, कोल्डर एयर ब्रीज जो होता है सी की तरफ चला जाता है, वार्मर एयर लैंड की तरफ आता है, इसको सी ब्रीज इन नाइट। The land gets the heated up more quickly than the adjacent sea during the time. The low pressure is developed over the land and the high pressure over the sea. This causes the circulation of the relatively cool air from the sea and the adjacent land called sea breeze. The rapid loss of the heat from the land causes the several of the daytime pressure condition due to the high pressure on the land and the low pressure over the ocean. The wind blow from the land to sea cause the land breeze. The fishermen along the coastal region use the land and sea breeze from the fishing activity, mountain and the valley breeze. During daytime, the mountain slope and heats are rapidly compared to the valley. This result in the air from the valley moving apart the slope and called is the valley breeze or the and anabatic winds. At night, the temperature differences between mountain slope and the valley is reversed uh, causation. A wind is a blow from the mountain to valley, causing the mountain breeze, which is also called the katabatic winds. Humidity, evaporation, and the condensation. The amount of water evap and the atmosphere is called humidity. It helps in the energy balance on the surface of the earth, surface of the earth, uh, and the condensation. The surface through the temperature condensation. Humidity is the index of the atmosphere potential, the yielding the precipitation. Measurement of the humidity in the atmosphere. 3 days. First, specific humidity. It is the ratio of the weights of the water vapor and the grams of the weight of the air kilogram expressed as the grams per kg of the air. It indicates the actual amount of the moisture and the present in the air. Here, the amount of the water vapor and the remains the same. It is not showing the effect of the temperature. Second, the absolute humidity. It is the ratio of the weights of the water vapor in the gram to the volume of the air in the meter cube, the expressed as a gram per meter cube of air. The measured humidity is a gram per meter cube. Example: 100 grams per meter cube. It decreases with the is the expression of the air and increase with the concentration. Second, relative humidity measures humidity in the percentage. It is the ratio between the amount of the water vapor present in the air and the maximum amount of the water vapor in the coal the whole and give the temperature. The relative humidity seen just with the temperature. It is the temperature is decreased in the maximum capacity increase and the relative humidity decrease. It is the temperature decrease, maximum capacity decrease, relative humidity increase. The air is the saturated when the relative humidity reach the 100%. Evaporation. The the conversions of the liquid water into the water vapor is called evaporation. Three important factors: A. The Higher temperature, higher the rate of the evaporation. Humidity, higher the humidity and the lower the rate of the evaporation due to saturation of the air. The wind speed, the higher the wind speed, the higher rate of the evaporation and air movement provides a constant supply of the fresh air. The distribution, and the highest in the 30 degrees, the lowest in the polar region. And condensation, the process of the conversions of the water vapor into the liquid water is called the condensation. It is the reversal of the evaporation. The temperature at the which the condensation takes place is the called a dew point. If the condensation happens below the 0 degrees Celsius is called the frozen point. The condensation forms the dew. It is the moisture deposited in the form of the liquid water droplets and the land surface. The condition of the uh, favorable for the formation of the dew and the long winter night, calm air, and the cloudless sky. Uh, Frost. It is a thin layer of the ice and solid surface. It is the formed when the temperature is the surface below the freezing point and the water droplets are the fall on the such a cold air surface rim. The deposit of the deposit of the needle-like white opaque ice, the crystal on the surface with the temperature below the 0 degrees Celsius. It occurs when the super cooled water droplets in the air come into contact with the surface below the freezing point. Fog. It is produced near to the surface below the temperature of the air drops suddenly. The visibility will be the less than 1 kilometer. The condition required for the formation of the fog in the same as condition of the temperature inversion. Following condition of the fog and the fog formation commonly low winter, calm air, and the cloudless sky. Types of fog: the radiation fog, valley fog, frontal fog, advection fog, mist. It consists of the small droplets of water and droplets of water suspended in the air. It is similar to the fog, but with the lower density of water vapor. The visibility as mist is that between 1 to 2 kilometer has. It is caused by the smoke and the dust particle with the humidity. It is generally observed in the urban areas. The visibility in the has up to the 2 kilometer. The cloud and the precipitation. Stability condition. It is the condition when the resist vertically movement of the remains of the original position. The stability is the air is the cool at the base or air is the subsidence along the high pressure bed. Pressure is the unlikely in the condition. The instability condition. It is the condition where the air does not resist vertically movement and leads the cold and the formation and the precipitation. The instability occurs along the regions of the high temperature and the low pressure. The type of the clouds. Cirrus. The cirrus means the thin high altitude and the fiery appearance. The white color and the indicates the fair weather. The stratus. The layered the high altitude is the milky appearance. Stratus. Stratus means the layered. The alto means the middle altitude. Cumulus. The cumulus clouds have the cotton wool like the appearance with the dome shaped the cauliflower's top, also called the Gulumbar masses. The nimbus. Nimbus means the rain bearing. The alto cumulus. The Gulumbar masses of the clouds with the cotton wool like appearance at the middle altitude. Uh, Altostratus. The layer of the cloud is the seat along with the middle altitude stratus. The low uniform layer cloud near the ground level is produce light drizzles. Cumulonimbus cloud. The cumulonimbus clouds over very dark, high, and dense with the annual top. It causes the heavy rainfall with the thunder and the lightning. The precipitation. The precipitation requires the following three conditions. पहला upliftment of the mechanism to causes the most air to the rise. Second, saturation. The cooling of the air below the dew to point C. The presence of the hygroscopic nuclei such as the dust particle around the which water droplets can accumulate. Type Types of the precipitation are the convectional rainfall. It occurs in the region of the intense heating near the grounds of the surface. The heating causes air and expand the rise, resulting in the upliftment. They are often accompanied by the thunderstorm, the lightning due to the formation of the cumulonimbus clouds. They are experienced throughout the year and is the equatorial region and the summer in the tropical region. Convectional current. The condensation occurs formation of the cloud, heavy rain, air cooled, the evaporation, the moist air rises, evaporation seeds, sun heat grounds. B. Orographic rainfall. When the warm and moist air is formed rise across the mountain slopes, it cools down, causing the precipitation along uh, windward side. However, the leeward side and the descending the air not causes the precipitation, creating a rain shadow region. For example, the Western Ghat of the India. You can see on image. Frontal rainfall. It occurs along the frontal zone due to the convergence of the different types of the air masses. The air masses rises above the cooled air and causing the precipitation. Frontal precipitation is the common along the temperature region. Frontal rainfall. The distribution of the precipitation along the equatorial region and highest precipitation is experienced above 200 centimeter per annum. It is due to the convectional rainfall along the obstacle region around the 30 degrees minimum rainfall experience 25 centimeters per annum, and the mid latitude region between 30 to 40 degrees of the north and the south experiences uniform and moderate precipitation due to the frontal rainfall. Due to the presence of the moist maritime air is the causes receive more precipitation than the contents. The coastal region receive the higher precipitation than the interior. The thunderstorm and lightning. Due to the intense heating of the strong and the vertical convection, cumulonimbus clouds are formed. The raindrops of these clouds move up and down due to the strong air current, creating the electronic charges which accumulate the opposition side of the clouds. When the both types of the charges have attract the flash light and the produce due to the exchange of the charge of the lightning. The lightning causes the vacuum in the cloud due to the rapid experience of the air. It is the full surrounded cool air and the producing gap of the thunders. The cloud burst. The IMD defines the cloud burst is the rainfall over the t- over the 10 centimeter per annum concentrated in the small area and the few kilometer formation of the cloud burst. The high temperature and the higher humidity favor the strong and the rapid convection. The steep topography along the mountains region causes the high buildup or the clouds without the precipitation due to the fulfilling the effect. The rapid convection and the precipitation of raindrops as follow. Once the cloud comes too heavy and for the air aware, hold the drops of the together and quick excesses of the resulting in the cloud burst. In India, the cloud burst can be observed along the Himalayas, Rajasthan desert, and the monsoon coast. Tornado. The violently rotating column of the air extends from the ground of the base of the thunderstorm. It appears like the funnel descending from the cloud. The wind speed goes of the 100 km per hour. It is formed with the charge in the wind speed and direction, creating the horizontal spinning of the effect within the strong cell. This effect is the tapped vertically by the rising air moving up toward the thunder clouds. The water spot is the whirling column and air, water, and the mist developed over the water bodies. Jet stream. World Meteorology Organization defines jet stream is the strong narrow current and concentrated along the quasi-horizontal axis in the upper troposphere or the lower troposphere, categorized by the strong vertical and later wind sheets. The heating on the move the vertically maximum characteristics. They are the thousands of the kilometer length and the 100 kilometers in width, normally blow from the west to east. The wind are the faster during the winter. The entire system follows the sun. It follows the zigzag path in the form of the rosy waves and the causes. The jet stream are the generated due to temperature differences between the two regions, that is the tropical and temperature and polar structure. The differences in the pressure gradient with the altitude above the cold, warm and air masses causes a strong movement of the wind. The larger the temperature differences, the strong and winds. A polar front stream. They are the formed where the polar and the feral cell meet. They are the irregular and discontinuous. They flow from west to east. B. The subtropical westerly jet stream. The associated with a temperature gradient between the Hadley and the feral cell. It is more regular and strong. It blows from the west to east. C. The tropical easterly jet stream forms over India and Africa only the summer due to the intense heating of the Tibetan Plateau. The direction is the seat of the west. D. The polar night and jet stream, the formed over the polar region of the troposphere during the winter. They are the associated with the formation of the ozone hole. The direction of is the from west to east. E. Local jet stream. They are the formed due to the local thermal and dynamic condition. Example: the Somali jet stream. The significance of the jet stream. The jet stream is the responsible for the cyclonic anticyclonic condition along with the surface. The upper divergence is the jet stream causes the lower convergence and the upper convergence of causes the lower divergence. It change whether the condition along the surface by the suppressing or the increasing the precipitation. It is used the aircraft navigation. The polar night jet Jet streams are responsible for the ozone depletion. The jet streams help in the transportation of the pollutants into the upper troposphere from the urban region and the help in the cleaning fog and smoke during the winter. It help in the formation of the temperate cyclone and the intensity them. The monsoon in the South Asian controlled control the effect the subtropical weatherly tropical easterly and the Somali jet stream. The subtropical easterly and jet stream help in the bringing western disturbance causing the precipitation during the winter in the northeast region. It interaction of the jet stream with an Nina, El Nino condition cause the formation of the heat from the cover North America. The meandering of the jet streams near polar region during the winter result in the outburst of the polar vortex and causing the freezing condition along with the lower altitudes. Polar vortex. The polar vortex is the large area lower pressure and the cold air surrounding by the Earth's poles. The term of the vortex refers to the counterclockwise flow of the air which keeps the cold polar air where locked inside. The polar winter night jet stream keep in the region covered with a strong wind. Occasionally, when the vortex weaken due to the weakening of the jet stream and the vortex expands and sends the polar and the southwards along with the jet stream, the bringing down the temperature in the southern region in the colder level of the below the 0 degrees Celsius. Their masses. It is the extension of the portion of the atmosphere whose the physically properties such as the temperature, pressure, and the humidity are the homogeneous, the horizontally and the vertically, and the form of the hundreds of the kilometer. The temperature of the source of the air cell remains the uniform horizontally with the very gradual change in the vertically direction. The humidity and conditions should be also be uniform with the list of the variability. The surface area shall remain the homogeneous for the few hundreds kilometer. The regions with the light divergent wind, high pressure belt, and the anticyclonic circulation are the more favorable formation of the air masses due to the stable condition. Types of the air masses classified the based on the different factors such as the source area, the uh, continental sea, the formed over the continents and the Mediterranean, M, the formed over the ocean, B, the temperature, warm and the cold air masses, C, the pressure, stable, S, the unstable air masses, U, and D, latitude, Arctic masses, A, unarctic masses, A, and polar air masses, P, tropical air masses, TO, equatorial air masses, E, and and A is the continental, P and T is the continental and the maritime respectively. E is the maritime. The significance of the air masses. Air masses transport heat and one region to the another and help the global distribution of the temperature. When the air masses moves away from its source area and changes the temperature and the pressure, the condition of the destination region. The maritime air masses bringing more moisture towards the continental region, increasing its the humidity and causing the precipitation, high precipitation along the coastal region due to the influence of the maritime air masses. The dry continental air masses along the subtropical region in the maintaining the aridity condition. The cold air masses formed over the Siberia and the Canada affect the surrounding region for the long distance causing the cold condition. The maritime air masses and the Indian Ocean plays an important role in the precipitation over Indian during the monsoon. The interaction of the warm and the colder air masses temperature region leads to the formation of the frontal and the temperate cyclone. The maritime tropical equatorial air masses and Antarctica Indian Ocean help in the development of the tropical cyclone. The temperate cyclone front the narrow zone of the transition dividing two air masses of the differing temperature and the humidity. The condition is called the front. They are usually formed the mid-altitude and temperature region. The process of formation of the front is called the frontal zone. The process of the day and the fronts is called as the front. Types of the front. First, a stationary front. It is the front where the surface position of the front is not changing and the two air masses are unable to push each other. Uh, when the stationary front is the distributed, the result in the form of the front is the cold front. B. The cold front. It is the boundary between the warm and the cold air masses where the cold air masses is advancing and the undercutting the warm air masses. It results in the steeper gradient along the front, leading to the rapid upliftment of the warm air and the formation of the cumulonimbus cloud. It results in the heavy rainfall over the smaller region. C. Warm front. It is the boundary between the warm and cold air masses where the warm air masses is advancing and the overriding the cold air masses. The gradient of the front is a gradually resulting in the stratonimbus cloud. It is cause the moderate rainfall over the large area. Occulted front. It is the later the stage and the front formation where the air is the warm sector and the no longer at the ground surface due to the meeting of the warm and cold air front. It is the compound zone with both warm and the cold front of the characteristics. The occulted front is gradually resulting in the frontal lysis. It is the later stage of the front the formation where the air is the warm sector. Warm sector is no longer at the ground surface due to the meeting of the warm and cold front. It is the compound zone with the both warm and cold front characteristics. It occulted front gradually result in the photolysis, the formation of the temperate cyclone 6 stage. First stage, the convergence of the two water masses with a different characteristic. Air masses move parallel to each other and the stationary front formed. Stage 2, warm cold air masses penetrate into the territory of the each forming the wave-like front. The third stage, with the warm and cold front starting to move towards each other. The form the sector is the wedge between the cold between the cold sector. Stage 4, the warm sector is narrowed the extent due to the advance of the cold front. Stage 5, the occultation start with the warm rising completely above the cold air and the cold front completely overriding the warm front. Stage 6, the warm sector completely disappear with the occulted front and the eliminate the cyclones die out. The temperate cyclone are also called the mid-altitude cyclone or terrestrial cyclone, wave cyclone. They are the more the prominent and the regions between the 35 to 65 degrees north and south. The role of the jet streams in the temperate cyclone. The jet stream being quasi-horizontal in nature result in the upper divergence in the some location, and the upper divergence causes the surface convergence which help in the bringing together with the warm cold air masses and the subsequent formation of the front. Tropical cyclone. The tropical cyclone is a lower pressure high velocity wind system originating within the tropics over the ocean. The name of the different region: Indian Ocean cyclone, the Atlantic Ocean hurricane, the southern China typhoon, Japan typhoon, Philippines Begui, Australia Willy Willy. The staging tropical cyclone. Seven stage tropical cyclone. A. Temperature. Above the 27 degrees Celsius over the ocean is ensure the sufficient evaporation. D. Depth of the warm water. The 27 degrees Celsius temperature should be extend up to the 60 to 70 meters in the depth. The humidity of the air. The high humidity of the 50 to 60 percent near the surface. D. The minimum vertical wind shears so that the humid and the warm air is not a step away. E. The Coriolis force. It causes the wind deflection. Therefore, the cyclone are the developed only between the 5 degree to north to the 25-degree north or the 5 degrees south to 25 degrees south. F. The pre-existing lower pressure condition. These get the intensified to the form of cyclone. E. Upper air divergence causing the convergence near to the surface. In the above, the first five are the necessary for condition formation. The strong convection result in the build of the huge cumulonimbus cloud. The release of the latter heat provides more energy to the system, supporting the further strong convection. When the wind is started to descend along with the side, entire system is stabilized. The later winds is near to surface start rotates around the low pressure center due to the Coriolis force. After the some time, some of the descent air rising near the center start descent, resulting in the formation of the eye. Once the cyclone is formed, moved under the influence of the planetary wind, it deflects towards the northwest direction. When the cyclone marks the landfall or enters in the water higher latitude and dissipates the come to end. Structure of the cyclone eye. It is the center of the storm, about a 5 to 50 kilometers diameter, with the clear sky, calm condition, and lowest pressure and highest temperature. Eye wall. A wall of the thick cumulonimbus cloud with the 10 to 20-kilometer width. It is the strongest wind in the cyclone. The thunderstorm occurs in this region due to the intense convection. The spiral bands, aka range, the bands in the feeder bands extend to the 100-kilometer, lead to the galaxy-like appearance. The annular zone, a zone of the suppressed cloudiness, high temperature, low humidity. Other the convection bands at the edge of the main clouds masses, with the instability and the convection. The naming system of the cyclone. The 2004 eight countries of the northern Indian Ocean agreed to have the common naming system for the cyclone. Each of the countries arranged them the alphabetical order, and it is submitted in the set of the eight names. The regional specialized meteorological center of WMO located New Delhi maintains the list. arrange the sequential order of the assigning the names when the wind speed across the 62 km per hour. The suggested names shall be neutral, political, religious, and the culturally as well as the concerning the gender. It should be the easy to pronounce. All the names in the earlier matrix expired in expired in 2019, and the new matrix suggested the 13 countries was the agreed upon the effective in the from the 2020 recurvature of the cyclone. When the air current is the local atmosphere's push air from the poles towards the equator and the interference the cyclone formation cyclones which is about the diminished gets from the wind and the deflect the right and the eastward under the influence of the westerlies in the phenomena is known as the recurvature of the cyclone. The recurvature is the very difficult to predict. For example, cyclone Okhis of 2018, the cyclones in the Indian Ocean. The number of cyclone in the name in the Bay of Bengal more than the Arabian Sea in the ratio of 4.1. Reason: the strong wind shears the Arabian Sea. The temperature is the higher in the Bay of Bengal because the more rivers enter in the Arabian Sea. The colored coded warming the IMD cyclones. It because the IMD significantly intensity of the situation when the warming associated with the four colors are used. Green, no warming. Yellow, be aware. Orange, be prepared. Red, take action. The objective is the alert people at the hazardous weather and the prepare them the handling the disaster situation. It is the universal and used during the floods and the heavier rainfall for the cyclone. It is a prepared through the matrix. Other climatic region 0 to 10 degrees hot and the wet equatorial type of the cyclone. 10 degree to 30 degrees hot zone include the desert, savanna climate and the monsoon type of the climate. And 30 degree to 25 degrees Mediterranean steppe and Chinese type of climate. 45 degree to 60 degrees a cold temperate zone include British Siberian and Laurasian type of the climate. 66 half degrees in the above Arctic region zone. Hot and the wet equatorial climate. Temperature is always high throughout the year. Precipitation happens through the convection. The daily maximum temperature is the 30 degrees and the daily minimum temperature is the 20 degrees. The annual range of the temperature is more than the annual range of the both very less. Humidity levels are the high. The no marked differences between the season. The precipitation above 250 centimeter through the convectional rainfall. Life in the rich here. The vegetation is the very green and nature. Evergreen rainforest exists here. The vegetation shows the layered arranged for the trees. Sunlight is the lightening of factor. The diversity of the flora and fauna is very high. Reason: Amazon basin, part of the cyclone. Ecuador, Congo basin, Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, Papua New Guinea. Monsoon type of the climate. Hot zone eastern margin, seasonal reversal and of the wind. Precipitation is concentrated during the monsoon period. One of the more month of the dry season. Vegetation is the deciduous type. Trees shed leaf during the winter season. The South Asia included India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, China, Eastern Africa, and the Northern Australia. Within the monsoon type, on one short trade winds causes the precipitation from the both direction throughout the year called the tropical marine climate. Example: Central Arabian Sea breeze. That Sudan type of the climate. Hot zone continental type of the climate. And grassland and the tropical region. The precipitation is the lesser than the eastern margin and the more than the western margin. The rainfall is the summer due to the convection. The definite dry season during the winter. The average annual rainfall is the 70 centimeter. Scattered drought resistant tree. The region: Sudan region, Savannah region to the southern equatorial Africa, southern America, Laurentian compass, northern Australia. Desert type of the climate: hot zone western climate formed by the three conditions: nearness of the subtropical high pressure belt, the offshore trade wind, the presence of the cold ocean current. The precipitations are very less and the less than the 25 centimeter per annum. The high diurnal range of the temperature. The vegetation is the xerophytic nature. Example: cactus and date, etc. Desert: Sahara Desert, Mojave Desert, Arizona Desert, Atacama Desert, Namib Desert, Kalahari Desert, Victoria Desert, Gobi Desert. Mediterranean type of climate. Also called the temperate western margin. In the summer, ITC jet shift northwards, bring offshore trade winds and no precipitation. In winter, the IT jet shift southward, bringing off onshore westerlies and causing good rainfall. In winter, they are also under the influence of the temperature cyclone causing the rainfall. It is known as for the characteristic dry summer and the wet winter. The summer are the not very hot. The vegetation is the drought resistant, deep rooted short bushes. The example: grapes are olive, orange, and the other citrus fruit. Region: California, central Chile, southwestern part of the South Africa, southwest and southern Australia. Steppe type of climate. On the warm temperature continental type, the precipitation is higher than the tropical grassland due to the influence of the temperate cyclone during winter. During the summers, the precipitation is through the convection, resulting in the moderate rainfall throughout the year. The grasses is the shorter than green. The soil is the very fertile. They are known for the larger scale commercial agriculture and animal region. Steppe and Central Asia, prairies in the Northern America, pampas in the Southern America, welts in the South Africa, downs in the Australia. Chinese type of climate. A warm temperature eastern margin. The precipitation is throughout the year. In summer, they are the affected the tropical cyclone, and the winter are there under the influence of the temperate cyclone. Summer, not too hot. Winter, not too cold. Vegetation is very dense, luxurious. Deciduous evergreen species region, southwestern USA. Yeah, Southeast Brazil, southwestern Chinese, southeast South Africa, southwestern Australia. Laurentian type of climate. The cool temperate and eastern margin. The temperature range between the 20 degrees in the summer and the below the 0 degrees in the winter. Rainfall throughout the year and but more the summers. They under the influence of temperate cyclone, the vegetation upon the 50 degrees north south in deciduous broad lived, and the beyond that is the coniferous. The region eastern western Canada, northeast USA, northern China's Korea, and the Japan, eastern Argentina, Siberian type. This is also called the cool temperate continental. The summers are the hotter and winters are the extremely cold and dry. This is result in the anticyclone circulation. The rainfall throughout the convection and summer the through the snowfall winter. The vegetation is the coniferous and the single largest stretch vegetation is the earth. It is a low diversity, but in the economic value, it is the only the climate that is exclusively present in the northern hemisphere region: Siberia, Russia, and the Poland, Scandinavian, Canada, Alaska, British type. The cool temperate western margin. They are under the influence of the offshore westerlies throughout the year. This is the cause the precipitation which is the moderate throughout the year. They are under the influence of the warm ocean current and which keep in there the port is ice free even during the winter. It is known for the characteristic mid winter and the cool summer. The vegetation is the mixed type, the mixture of the broadleaf and the coniferous. The reason: the United Kingdom, Norway, western coast of the Europe and western Canada, southern Chile and New Zealand, Tasmania. Polar type of the climate. It is also known as the Asian tundra type of the climate. It is covered winter throughout the year. And during the summer, when the snow melt, vegetation grows the stored like the monsoon degrees and the ice and the lichen. The rest of the region is the covered with the permafrost region. Any region beyond the Arctic and Antarctic circle. Groups type letter code characteristic. Group A में tropical humid climate types the tropical wet AF characteristic no dry season. Tropical monsoon AM the monsoon short dry season. Tropical wet and dry AW winter dry season. Group B dry winter subtropical steppe BSH the low latitude semi-arid and the dry subtropical desert BWH the low latitude arid or dry. The mid altitude steppe BSK mid altitude semi-arid or dry. Mid altitude desert BWK mid altitude dry and Group C, the warm temperate mid-altitude climate, humid subtropical CFA, no dry season, warm summer. Mediterranean, the CS, the dry hotter summer. Marines Western CFB, the no dry season, warm cool and summer. D, colder snow forest climate, humid continental subnews. DF the no dry season savors winter and winter dry ever very serves the E colder climate tundra and the FT not true summer the polar ice gap EF the perennial ice high altitude highland H the highland with the snow cover. The Indian climate. The factor affecting the climate of India a latitudinal extent. The differences between the southernmost and the northernmost altitudes which the 30 degree. The overall climate condition is the tropical monsoon varies in the local level of due to the larger latitudinal extent. B. The location. At the North Indian Ocean with the major port are the peninsular region surrounded by the ocean resulting in the moderate effect. C. The presence of the Himalayas. It promotes the Indian from the cold and dry wind the Central Asia. During winter, it also influences the monsoon in India. D. The other tropical features such as the Western Ghat bringing the perpendicular to monsoon winds receiving the high precipitation on the western side, the rain shadow along with the eastern side. The orientation of the Arauli parallel to the monsoon winds resulting the very low precipitation in Rajasthan. E. Monsoon wind. The most of the dominant factor of Indian climate due to the which is called as the monsoon climate. F. Jet stream. The tropically easterly jet stream and the Somali jet stream influence winter and summer condition over the India. G. Cyclones. The coastal region of the Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Odisha, West Bengal are the largely affected by the tropical cyclone H. L. El Nino, La Nina, Madam Julius Oscillation, Indian Oscillation Dipole influence the rainfall over the India. Monsoon. The word monsoon is derived from the Arabian word mosmi, which means a seasonal reversal of the wind. The classical theory of the region. This explains the phenomena of the monsoon as a large-scale sea breezes and land breezes due to the reversal temperature and the present pressure condition from the summer to winter in the northern plain. During the summer, high temperature and the low pressure affect the wind from the Arabian Sea. During winter, low temperature and the high pressure causes the wind to blow away from the plain towards the sea. The winter season, November February. The low temperature high pressure conditions are the prevailing over the northward plain. It causes the anticyclone circulation causing the wind blow outwards from the land over the which are is the subsiding. The sky is clear and dry. The subtropical westerly jet stream is strong well the established. It is the bifurcated into the two branches and towards the north and the south the Tibetan plateau. This is the southern branch is the stronger the well established over the northern Ganga plain, and this the intensify intensify surface anticyclone causing the wind blow from the to the sea in the northeast direction. The northeast wind after the crossing the Bay of Bengal peak of the moisture and the causes the precipitation along the Coromandel coast. The spring season March and May. This temperature has the started rising pressure is the falling. The weather is the extremely hot and dry. The subtropical westerly jet stream bring the weekend and the southern branches eventually. The move the entirely and the north to the Tibetan plateau. This is the trigger convection and the precipitation is the some region. They are called the pre-monsoon showers. Mango showers in the Kerala. It help the raping of the mangoes. The blooms of showers in the Karnataka. It helps the coffee flowering. Northwestern of the Kerala Bagsaki in Assam. It is called the Bardoli Chhatra. It help in the jute and the rice cultivation. The Lu is the northern plain from the Punjab to Bihar. The summer season May August. They are Weather is extremely hot and dry. The higher temperature causes the complete development of the low pressure cell desert in the northern plain. IT says gradually shift towards the north and attach the southern trade winds towards the north of equator. This southern trade is a wind after the crossing the equator turns right under the influence of Coriolis for the started below southwest monsoon wind. The temperature stratification is the air is not below large scale convection is the preventing major storm. The tropical easterly jet stream the depreciation is a Bay of Bengal help in the distributing the stratification air trigger the large scale precipitation. The tropical easterly jet stream is a low level of jet stream existing over the Southeast Asia and Africa in summer. It causes the change in the divergence of the convergence on the surface. The sudden of the onset moisture level in associated with the violent, the thunder and the lightning is the called the Varsity of monsoon. The Somali jet stream is the local jet stream of the coast of the East Africa. The strength of the high pressure Madagascar and the high pressure cell causes the faster blow the wind towards the in the it some region due to the local stability condition temperature stratification in the presence of the wind start blowing the parallel the tropic resulting in the breaks of the monsoon. Autumn season September to October. IT said monsoon through the start move the back gradually towards the south. This is the also bring the back the maximum extent which is the southeast which the below which is the called the retreat the monsoon. The southwest wind slowly get replaced by the northwest wind. The high temperature with the dry condition existing over the northern plain and during the October is the cold October heat. The subtropical westerly jet stream repairs the southern and temperate region creating the dry condition. The characteristics of the Indian monsoon. The onset of the monsoon is gradually is the more gradual. As the wind is the move from the sea to land, the amount of the precipitation gradually decrease. The duration of the monsoon is also decreased from the sea to land. And the temporal variation in the rainfall in the time. The spatial variation of the rainfall from the local to the another distribution of the monsoon. The monsoon winds get divided into the branches, the Arabian Sea and branches and the Bay of Bengal. The Bay of Bengal branch it moves parallel to the Coromandel coast and causes the no precipitation from the KG Delta. Rainfall started increasing towards the West Bengal. Along the Ganga Delta, Bay of Bengal branches it divided into the western, eastern and the Himalayan foothills. The western branches is the Meghalaya Plateau uh, perpendicular causing the very heavy precipitation. The western branch moves across the Ganga plain. The precipitation decreases from the east to west along the Ganga plain. The precipitation increases towards the high Himalaya and the south to north. The Arabian Sea branch. It is the western Ghat, the height of the along the causing the heavy precipitation along the western side. Along the western side, the descending the wind resulting in the rain shadow affected creating dry condition the Maharashtra and Karnataka. The Arabian Sea the branches advanced towards the Gujarat below parallel to Aravallis resulting in the very less precipitation in Rajasthan. The Arabian Sea branches meet the Bay of Bengal branches Agra and combined with the branches are causing the precipitation in region of the North India. Western disturbance. The western disturbance is the active between the November to April. During the winter, north experiences the cold and dry condition along the with the strong westerly jet stream. The Mediterranean region received the rainfall in the due offshore westerly temperature cyclone. Climate khatam. Thank you for watching.